But Braxton, every successful person that I have met never stops learning. They're never done. It seems like, is that your philosophy too? You're never done?
Oh, never, yeah.
Okay.
You actually, to me, my experience has been that you actually learn more that the older you get if you make a point to never stop learning. You actually learn more, and you look back on things that you thought you knew, and you say, man, I'm getting better. I mean, the law here, the universe, this is the way it works, is that things are supposed to get better for us. And if we look back and be like, well, I learned that in college, but that's what I learned in college, and always go back to that time when we were in school, then you are missing a huge benefit to just getting better and learning more.
Well, there's a shameless plug for a book I wrote, and I make like $1 if you buy it, but it's called Will Not Work for Food. And I use it for a lot of, I speak for HR groups or groups of employees. And the book talks about the average person and what we do and what we don't do. The average college graduate, after graduating from college, never reads a book again. Mm-hmm. From cover to cover, they never do. They might buy a book, they might sit on their nightstand, but they never read again after getting the degree. Mm-hmm. So there's kind of that philosophy, like, I went to college, I learned everything I need to know, now I'm done learning.
When you actually pick up the book or watch the documentary or listen to the podcast, you'll notice over time as you do it, not just once or twice, but as you make it an active thing in your life, your confidence will go up, and you'll have just a sharper mind than you do when you don't do that. I've gone through periods of time where I haven't read enough, or when I a couple months or whatever, where it's just I've looked back and be like, man, I've been a little bit lazy, and the sharpness of mind and the confidence that you get from consistently learning and consistently, you find enjoyment out of it, and it brings a huge benefit.
Final kind of capstone thought on that. I know for me, I schedule 30 minutes every single day to read, and sometimes I don't want to. I say sometimes, most of the time. And then once I do it, I love it.
Yep.
I do it first thing in the morning. It gives me new ideas. It keeps me from getting stuck in a rut of bad thinking.
Yep.
I think it's absolutely huge, though, that we are always learning. Now we move on to principle number 3, on to step 3, is we all learn by doing, though. Mm-hmm. Aristotle, the famous philosopher, once said, anything that we have to learn to do, we learn by the actual doing of it. Mm-hmm. What did he mean by that?
I think the concepts that are specific are great, but even though they're specific in your mind, they can still be abstract until they get into the doing portion. And the doing makes them concrete. You actually see what you've got up here, you see it in action. And all of us humans, when until we actually do it, it doesn't really become reality.
I guess an example would be, I love reading the story of Hobby Lobby and how he built his business. And there was something about going onto his facility and seeing him. I think he rode a bike around the facility.
Yeah.
And you see 1 million square foot of space, and you see all the products being shipped, and you see how he actually manages his schedule. There's a big difference between that and then reading it.
Right.
And there's an even bigger difference about trying to go back to your own home and do those things.
Right. It's like having a schedule up here versus writing it down and putting it on paper. I mean, that's a very simple, basic thing that a lot of people, they don't actually put it down on paper. But anything that we read, any service profit chain or a soft sell in a hard world, until we actually do it, we don't really know how it works.
Here's an example of one. I'd like for you to hit on this if you can. There's all these books out there about, well, you just get rich quick buying some real estate. Mm-hmm. It's a late night commercial. It's like, it's 2 a.m. You've had too many, you've got, I don't know what, I don't do this anymore because I'm married and I have kids, but I remember there's a time in my life where it's like 2 a.m. and you're like, just kind of watching channels, and you're eating, and maybe you're having you bought a 1 pound bag of Twizzlers and you're just eating them, and you're like, oh man, I do want to get a shake weight, and I do want to make $1 million in 10 minutes. And there's some guys like, well, I live on a beach now, an exclusive resort. I make millions of dollars a day, and all I did was I went to this seminar and I buy real estate, and money just comes to me. Yeah. And then for $19.99 you can buy the program, and then there's real talk.
Right.
You actually are like, okay, I'm going to buy an actual house and flip it.
Right.
So when you bought, I know you and I did a project together.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. So you decide, okay, I'm going to flip a house.
Right.
What kind of realities do you run into when you actually buy the house and you actually are trying to flip it versus the theory of flipping? Like, what kind of things did you learn real quick there?
Well, I mean, the reality is that a house is going to have lots of problems no matter what house you buy. And so it's not a quick thing. It doesn't work that way. It takes in order to make money in real estate. It's a good example because there's so much out there about getting rich quick, and there's no getting rich quick in real estate. It just doesn't work. I mean, closing costs and commissions and contractors that don't show up and water heaters that break in the middle of your project and flood the whole thing. I mean, it happens. Insurance and taxes and all of these things that people don't take into consideration. I mean, getting a loan and how much it takes to pay that off while you're getting it fixed up. There's so many variables in there that you've got to think of and realize that it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of planning and a lot of thinking through in order to get to the point where you actually make money.